Alrighty, everyone. Good morning. Thanks for joining. It's your boy Armored Silk. So today we're gonna get into President Trump and his another attempt of an impeachment by the Democrats, and then also Israel and Iran supposed ceasefire, and how I pretty much figured that more than likely it wouldn't happen. So that's what we're gonna get into, and hope you guys enjoy. Make sure to comment so we can actually have a dialogue, and yeah, let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen.
Democrats are scrambling over how to respond to President Trump's bold strikes on Iranian nuclear sites, but some critics are willing to give the president credit.
I find it hard to believe that Bush 41, Bush 43, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, go down the list. Any presidents wouldn't have felt compelled to take that strike.
It's about the best place we can be. I give extremely high marks to this national security team and President Trump for managing this crisis.
But the impeachment train is already leaving the station with AOC as its conductor.
President of the United States admitting that he unilaterally brought the United States into a war without congressional approval
This is how
is a very grave
dumb
public
she is.
admission.
It's not a literal sense of we've gone to war. At the end of the day, the president has command over the Marine Corps, obviously special operations, and certain targets that threaten the U.S. And yeah, obviously, like if we go to full-on war, you need congressional approval, but we are not at a full-on war. It's not even close to that. There's no boots on the ground or anything of the like, right? So another idiotic move by AOC and her idiotic cohorts.
It is illegal. It is unconstitutional.
The usurpation of the war powers of Congress would be an impeachable offense, would be a high crime and misdemeanor.
If we do not take immediate action, he is a would-be dictator who would become a dictator.
Guys, Congressman Al Green actually introducing articles of impeachment against Trump over the Iran strikes. A majority of Democrats joined
The first 3 times didn't work, but they're willing to try it again,
Democrats
hoping that,
were on
I
board
guess,
with Al Green.
this time
President
will
Trump, in the meantime, responding
actually
to
do
AOC's
something.
call for impeachment. It's a doozy. He said this. He called her one of the dumbest people in Congress. He questioned her test scores, said she should be forced to take a cognitive exam, and ended the epic and lengthy statement with this.
Oh, that's
Go
funny.
ahead and try impeaching me again. Make my
Look, I don't know about the whole test scores. Don't get me wrong, she is pretty dumb as far as like policies and stuff like that, but oh, that's funny. All right, let's keep it going.
Emily, she has got to stop up talking if she wants to be taken seriously. It's driving me nuts.
I know, and you know what drives me nuts further is how many people seem to not notice that and follow her anyway.
And she's supposed to be a potential nominee for presidency
repulsed by
in 2028, so that's insane.
Said, I'm the one that's supposed to make the effing decision on bombing Iran. And it reinforced to me why that's exactly not the case, right? We know that constitutionally that indeed it was reserved for the commander-in-chief for that reason that we see, and or at the time, commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy.
Every president,
that's the person elected by the
going back to like
those decisions to. And I feel like
Clinton,
it's a pretty foul mouth affair for
with Serbia, has had that power without, you know, Congress.
Representatives lashing out, trying to gain influence or attention, and they're missing the whole point because they're not thinking about this critically or the gravitas that it deserves.
Yeah, it's
and
crazy. You hate
the declaration thing.
The country more.
Semblance of history knows that
you hate the country more, or you hate the president more than you'd want to help and maintain our ability in international spaces. So it's like I don't hate anyone more than I love my country at the end of the day. So for these people to go this length, it's almost laughable at this point. I mean, it's to a point where like even their own people in their own party decided that they're not even going to impeach it. They're not going to bother. I think they had like 120 so Democrats say like, nah, we're not doing this. Especially because again, that's going to lead to another precedent that every time we want to attack or strike or do something, we're going to have to go through Congress, which is going to allow so many more leaks, which is something that the Democrats were complaining about earlier in the year with Hegseth and earlier strikes. So it doesn't make any sense. But yeah, let's keep going.
There have been plenty of actions where you've not declared war. I time traveled back to 1787, and I looked up the literal beginning U.S. Constitution Convention notes. And guys, in the debates, so the phrase to declare war, it used to say make war. And they actually specifically changed it to ensure the president could repel sudden attacks. The executive should be able to repel sudden attacks, but the legislature should declare war. That's exactly what this was. This was a deterrent, decisive action with containment to protect American interests. And that's why it's the commander-in-chief that does that, not Crockett-in-chief.
Jesse, she dropped some history there. That's usually your role, but...
And on top of that, right, the other issue is that, like she brought up, if we're getting attacked, it's like, are we going to wait for Congress to be like, yeah, we got to attack back? It's like, no, we're actually going to allow the president, that's why he's the commander-in-chief, to be able to take immediate action when necessary. And Iran having nuclear weapons is one of those situations.
But I will allow it. In some ways, I think this kind of helps Trump because he's blessed with the worst opposition. And
it does. It makes him seem even more better than what he's done, especially over the last 4 or 5 months.
She'll fundraise off of that and make small dollar donations, but I do think it strengthens Trump politically in the long run.
If they win the House, and that's a big if, Harold, they're going to try to
Orhan, hi, nice to meet you, brother.
They can't help themselves, and Hakeem has
Thanks
no
for joining. I
control over
definitely
his
appreciate it.
Nancy used to have control. Everyone said the same thing. They were all on point. Everyone's saying all these different things, each crazier
and another
than the next.
donut in the Democrats, man. Al Green, bro. How he's still in Congress is crazy.
When you saw Barack Obama eliminate Osama bin Laden, what I said at the time, because I'm a slick TV news host, is that Barack Obama didn't kill bin Laden. The SEALs did. And then I gave the SEALs all the credit because I wasn't man enough
yeah,
to
but
give
still,
the
by
president
proxy,
credit because I'm
you
just a shallow
would give
cable host.
president. I mean, look, I'm not an Obama fan, but
Why don't the Democrats do that? Why don't they say,
in the same way that you give
excellent job
Trump
by the
credit
Air
for
Force, amazing
stopping
job by
Iran
the
from having
Navy.
nuclear weapons,
I mean,
you would do the same
this
thing.
is what we love about this country. And you don't even talk about the president. It's Harold.
Yeah, I definitely will be, but I gotta get better at on my own before I can start putting out things. But I'll be definitely be doing that, Nico. But still, you do need politics in terms of making money as well.
Emily will realize that sounding like a lawyer is the worst thing to sound like.
Harold, your name was invoked. I mean, you never.
Politics
call for impeachment.
influences
You think
money,
this is crazy,
so.
I know, but she does get a lot of attention and drives the news cycle.
And we give it to her. I think that she is not representative of where a lot of the country is, and for that matter, where a lot of my party is.
No, not at all.
I think support for the president has been bipartisan. We showed a display of Democrats who worked in previous administrations, Mr. Obama's, Mr. Biden's, Democrats who were praising what this
and you guys have to remember, it has only been 4 months.
Execution of the mission.
And he's already doing pretty well overall. Obviously, there's some things he could fix, but absolutely.
Where we have a challenge is when you go overboard. This was not an impeachable offense. The president made a decision to protect and defend the country. You can think that he went overboard, or the degree in which he tried to do it is questionable.
All right, I'm going to pause it for 1 second. Nico, you are right to a certain degree, right? But politics dictates which way our country goes in. They make rules, they make policies, they make laws. So you definitely want to be able, I'm not saying you have to be all in it 100%, but you're definitely going to want to like still be somewhat engaged, because if a law changes in your state or county or whatever, that may have to do with something in your field of work. So I'm not saying, yeah, you got to be 100% in it like I am now, or even what, 10%, 20%. You still want to know what's going on around you. So again, international politics, maybe less so, unless you're dealing in trade and stuff like that. But you want a little bit of degree of knowing what's going on. And unfortunately, that does entail politics sometimes. But overall, I do agree with you.
Well, I don't. But I don't think that's an impeachable offense. If indeed that is, then every decision the president makes that you disagree with, that may or may not work, is impeachable. Finally, the War Powers Act allows for,
like I said,
the way it's been interpreted on one or two.
You're right, but I'm not gonna be. It's not. I'm not singular minded where I just watch one group, right?
In some people's minds, allow him.
I'll shift. I go to different news networks, news outlets. Like this afternoon, I'll be doing
over the last many years because
the BBC. So it's again, it changes for me. I'm not one dimensional in that sense.
But sometimes we've reached a point where Democrats support Democrats when they do things if they don't get the authorization.
And I do want to say thank you, Nico, for engaging. Definitely like being able to have a dialogue with people. So thank you.
Outside of the context of an imminent threat, or for that matter, imminent action on the part of the country, because I think the nation would be best served to understand what it means, to understand when it is triggered, and frankly, it'll help us to discern whether or not these crazy calls for impeachment or it's legal or unconstitutional, if indeed they have any credence.
I just want to point out that we aren't the only ones who are saying that the Democrats shouldn't go down this road. Here's Charlemagne on this.
I did see a snippet of this earlier. Look, when Charlemagne is going against you, not against you, or just speaking up a little bit on your crazy plan, you're definitely going in the wrong direction. Well, I mean, you have been for a long time in the Democratic sense. Yeah, definitely funny. Let's go ahead and hear this.
There have been a bunch of presidents who have ordered strikes.
Like I said earlier,
Barack Obama did it against Libya. Joe Biden ordered strikes in Iraq.
Clinton over Serbia during the Kosovo War.
Did it. So presidents ordering military action without congressional approval has become pretty routine. So why didn't it lead to impeachment for everybody else? Like when Barack Obama did it, when Biden did it,
but
when
it
Clinton
has.
did it.
I mean, you fought under one of these scenarios. The president needs to have that capability. What Israel was telling our intelligence, and they agreed, was that the fuse had been lit. So you could argue that it was defensive.
Could you imagine Congress being the ones in the Situation Room at the midnight hour, like trying to make a decision? I mean, they race to the bottom on our budget every 3 months. Like they can't decide.
Yeah, last minute, right? Exactly.
AOC, Jasmine Crockett, Ted Cruz, and Lindsey Graham. Maybe Thomas Massey is like the wild card and put him in
like we'd literally be waiting till we're destroyed before we retaliated if we left it up to Congress most times. Especially in the modern political world.
They're fighting it out, and they have to come to a consensus before they can leave that house. And while they're in there, the rest of us will figure this stuff out. You know, maybe even the rest of Congress can figure it out. Because that's what they want. They want attention.
And that's the other thing that I want to say, right? Congress obviously has the sole discretion of going into war, but that is it, right? They have no place or say in dictating strategy, tactics, what exactly is going to happen. That is not up to Congress whatsoever. That is solely to the president, military generals, so on and so forth. So yeah, when I think they're more mad about not having a say and taking credit so they can use it for their next political campaign. But hey, tough titties, right? Because at the end of the day, it's up to the president to defend, you know, by his words, what goes on for us, especially internationally, right?
And they want attention. They want to raise money, and you know, they want to, you know, like, of those I listed, I think Lindsey Graham actually is a true believer of the policy he advocates. So maybe that was unfair. But you know, the idea here is AOC, I think, is a little bit wiser to the game than Jasmine Crockett. AOC understands.
Sure, but that's not a high bar, so
is to be
like not by any means.
Sounding radical. That people that don't pay attention to politics just kind of likes her vibe and wants to support her. I think Jasmine Crockett will find her way there, just like Marjorie Taylor Greene has found her way to a little bit more normalcy. And then somebody else fills that void of the loudest and most obnoxious. That's what Congress is, and it's what they get.
Will you guard the House?
No, that, you know, whatever happens, happens, man. I'm sorry.
All right, coming up, a major clue about Kamala's next move that could clear the field in 2028.
Jesus. Oh, my God. I really hope that's not the case. And then, so now we're going to get into Israel and Iran ceasefire. I did make a video about this yesterday. I would be surprised if that holds. Honestly, I'd be shocked, right? And over the course of the last, I don't know, 10 hours or so, I guess they'd already attacking each other and slights or preparing to attack in Israel's case. So not a good start. But yeah, let's get into it.
President Trump in Amsterdam for a high-stakes NATO summit, fresh off a wild 24 hours testing the ceasefire he brokered between Israel and Iran. The president feeling very frustrated this morning and using some salty language as he lashed out.
Oh yeah, I guess he dropped the F-bomb.
Of violating the agreement that he hopes will lead to peace in the region.
See, this is the type
I'm not happy with Israel.
This is the type of precedent that I want.
Now you have 12 hours. You don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. We basically have two countries that have been fighting.
And I swear, check out my, I'm sorry to pause it so much. Check out my earlier video from yesterday. I literally said that this would be the case. Iran would shoot some random rocket, be like, hey, we got the last laugh, and then we're gonna all stop to a ceasefire. So I saw that coming from a mile away, and it pretty much came down to what Israel's going to end up doing in terms of retaliation or not. But yeah, so saw that coming from a mile away.
So long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. You understand that?
But it looks like the F-bomb diplomacy worked. So far, the ceasefire between Israel
and
Iran
that might be the first time I ever heard the president curse. Yeah, when he was a civilian or
President Trump also
as president.
On whether he'd like to see a regime change in Iran.
Do you want to see regime change in Iran? No.
None of our business. We stay out of that. As long as it doesn't threaten us directly. No need for us to get involved into any extra wars. That hasn't worked out for us in the past, going back to, what, the Korean War or thereafter, so.
They should be fine. They should be able to rebuild and do a good job. They're never going to have nuclear, but other than that, they should do a great job.
And now the White House and the Pentagon are pushing back on reports from the liberal media that claim Saturday's military strikes only set back Iran's nuclear program by months. Secretary Hegseth saying, quote, based on everything we have seen, and I've seen it all, our bombing campaign obliterated Iran's ability to create nuclear weapons.
So on that note, right, I will say this. The issue with building something underground, if it is bombed like we have done, especially with the bunker busters, I'm not saying that, right, they hit everything and it just destroyed all the metal equipment, nuclear materials, all that stuff. The issue is more that you've now collapsed, what, 80 meters of dirt and rocks and whatever else there is down there, and just collapse it on top of each other. So essentially, like, I mean, unless you're gonna start digging it out, which would take you years and years, it's not even worth the attempt of trying to get it back, right? You're better off just starting over. And then that's where they say, we won't allow that.
And White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt adds, quote, this alleged assessment is flat out wrong and was classified as top secret, but was still leaked to CNN by an anonymous, low-level loser in the intelligence community. All right, guys, I want to get back to that in a moment.
Yeah, so you can put out impeachments, right, in Congress. That doesn't mean that anything's actually going to go through, right? So, like, if it doesn't get enough votes, it's just dead in the water. But yeah.
But Joey, I want to start with you on the
so it does make
news. It seems to be holding, and that feels really incredible, right? And we have a couple outliers from Israel and Iran, that sort of are again outlined from the global support for this. But the question is, how does this reshape the landscape, and do we have follow-through obligations? And keeping in mind too that Tammy Bruce, State Department spokesperson, earlier said the future of Iran is in the hands of the Iranian people.
Yep.
I mean, the ceasefire's holding.
They're a sovereign country. Let them do what they want to do. If they want to have a civil war and uprise, hey, that is their right. We shouldn't get involved whatsoever. And lock a block down. Hey, but, hey, don't get me wrong. I love my people. And I got a lot of friends back home. But for me, man, it's all about politics and making things better for my family. And so far, this is the way to go. Sometimes you got to move away so you can get to like the greener side of the world, right?
But it's as fragile as Tim Walz's, courage right now. It could break at any moment. But that's what we're used to, and that's kind of the par for the course. When we look at that clip of President Trump getting emotional and using the F-bomb, when I hear that, I'm reminded of Bibi Netanyahu saying just a day before we bombed Iran, Israel's going to do what's best for Israel, and President Trump's going to do what's best for the United States. So there may be two different goals or two different paths to the goal, but it doesn't mean they're opposed to each other. The truth is, Israel goes, hey, we're going to make sure we send a message with this 6 hours that we have. And Iran, quite honestly, their government is in disarray. The military leadership is assassinated. We don't know if the people that shot those last 2 rockets had any communication with anyone. I mean, that is at least a legitimate probability, if nothing else.
That's a nice scapegoat, right?
Trump, you're sitting there, you're going, what
or an easy way out, I should say.
For the United States of America is to end another war on the heels or right before I go and speak to Europe about this, really what's going to be this other war, Ukraine and Russia. I mean, that's going to be part of the conversation. So what's best for Israel may be to...
That's interesting to think about, right? For the most part, it seems like everyone's forgotten about Ukraine and Russia because we've been so involved in Iran and Israel, especially with us getting involved directly in the Iran situation.
Action or deterrent action that our president has engaged in.
Well, I think it is incredible, his decision-making and the collaboration with the Israelis, the Operation Flawless. And I know you want to get to the intel stuff later. Look, if the Israelis say that it's obliterated and Pete Hegg says it, I think I'm going to take that over an anonymous source to CNN. But I also am patient enough to say time will tell. It's underground. We don't know.
So that is true. I'm more likely going to, not always, right? Not always. Obviously, our intelligence agencies have done some shady stuff in the past. But in general, I think I'll go with their information, at least for the most part. I know it's more accurate than some post that's on Twitter, especially if it's anonymous. But I do agree with her in the sense that I'm gonna wait till all the facts are laid out, right? Especially if we don't have any boots on the ground to confirm like everything's destroyed. But I'm just going off the information that's provided and what the probability is of those nuclear facilities being destroyed, especially like I said earlier, it being underground. So we'll just have to wait and see, though, at the end of the day, till we get like actual intelligence or actual confirmation that it is completely destroyed. So
I do think it's a little premature to have called for a ceasefire within those immediate 12 hours after the bomb, because they have been fighting for decades, maybe longer. Like there is.
So quick background on me, from Virginia originally, but I was in the military. Parents were in the military, so I've traveled overseas, been overseas as well. And then I joined, and then I went back overseas to different countries. So originally from Virginia, but have gone back and forth. So yeah.
The Iranians who said their goal is death to America, death to Israel. The Iranians said yesterday they still want to have a nuclear program. And President Trump had said total surrender or else.
Yeah.
So I think ceasefire, it felt a little premature because I don't think people are ready for it. When the Iranians cried uncle, I would have said, good. Leave them there for a couple days. Like when my mom would send my sister to her room and are you ready to come out?
Yeah, absolutely, Luck.
You're not coming out yet because she would be in trouble, right? I never got in trouble like that. But if you think about Russia and Ukraine, it's the same. President Trump will say, okay, we're going to have a ceasefire. Great. And then Russia's like, well, it's going to start on Friday. So in the meantime, they're going to do all of these things. Then President Trump would get mad at Russia. Then he'd get mad at Ukraine because they responded. And I think that President Trump's patience is going to be tested over and over again.
And that's the thing, right?
There's
only, you've got to give some amount of time because unfortunately, especially with special operations and stuff, once things get in motion, they're gone, right? Like it's very difficult because they go dark, right? So it's hard to get in contact with them. Once things have gone through past the initial stage, it's very difficult for it to stop. And that's where that time gives higher command the opportunity to possibly get in contact with them, send up some sort of flare to stop whatever it is they're going to do in terms of trying to, keep things going. America TV sucks. It's full of fake ass pitches like them. Don't listen to them. Again, hey, like I said, I say this all the time. Don't trust but verify, right? just because someone tells you something doesn't mean you just take them at their word and that's it. You figure out all the information on your own. You keep going. You get from different news sources, wherever, different social media outlets, and go from there. So like, never just trust one source. Find out different information from different sources and build your own idea or theory of what's going on.
They're at the NATO meeting, and what other world leader is stepping up to try to help on the diplomacy, or has the military wherewithal, the courage, and the decision-making ability to say, all right, Israelis, you can get us to this point, I will do the next step. The last point I would make is, since October 7th, when the Israelis felt that they were caught flat-footed.
And sorry, I don't mean to pause so much. One more point about the fake news, right? At least we have options. It's sure we might have sources that are fake, or they're trying to BS us, but you go to other countries where they got only one news channel or one source of information. I think we're far better off than those countries. So just want to put that out there.
They said this is not going to happen again. They have constituents as well, to what Joey was saying. And they do not want to have to go to the shelters anymore every 2 days. They don't want their children to have to learn to sleep with the noise of the shelters. That's not what they want for their futures. And they're on the cusp.
That seems like us back in during the
for a longer period of time.
Cold
so
War.
I understand that the patience is going to get tested.
Having to
for a
worry
little bit,
about
but I also
nuclear
think that you
attacks
could be a
and
little
doing
bit
the
more
nuclear
patient
drills,
in
and
All right, Jesse, the media leak. You gutless losers, the president said to CNN, to the applause of millions of Americans. And what do you make of this leak? The New York Times.
because I'm not gonna lie, I'm getting sick and tired of these leaks.
Talk to us about the media landscape.
Well, they're saying
It's one thing to be a whistleblower when something truly is wrong, especially when it's against the American people. But it's a whole different thing to leak information, because you may not be trying to send it to like foreign entities and stuff, but at the end of the day, that is exactly what you're doing. You're leaking information to everybody, and by proxy, that hurts us by giving it to foreign entities, foreign governments.
Bombs don't work. I mean, this was a 30,000-pound bomb.
And Julian Mays, I'm right there with you. America first, all the way, 100%. And then we help our allies, and then we go from there and try to help the world when we can. But first, we help our people. We help Americans, 100%.
That's probably the most serious leak I've ever seen. Now, I don't even believe it because the person who wrote it is the same journalist who wrote the Hunter Biden laptop is Russia disinformation. So to me, it sounds like another hoax.
I know. Thank you.
And
Hey,
if you have,
we all got to do our part, stick together. We're Americans first at the end of the day.
David Petraeus, the IAEA, the president, Joint Chiefs of Staff, all saying the same thing, that they have seriously degraded their nuclear capabilities, set it back years. I'm going to go with those guys. And
Like I was saying
the
earlier.
same media who believed everything the Biden White House said. And they just wrote it down. Oh, Biden is sharp. Write that down. The border's closed. Oh, right. Border's closed. Hunter's clean. Yep, Hunter's clean. And they believed everything that White House said.
That might have
So
been
when
the
Trump
worst
says
one.
something, they don't believe anything. All of a sudden, they don't believe anything the White House says.
Hunter Biden clean, bro.
Dana makes a point about her family. I had a camp counselor. And when we fought, he would say, okay, you get one more shot, then you get one more shot in, and then you guys are done. And that's what Trump did.
Like physical?
That was going to be my next question. Is this shit talking, or are we talking about physical?
No, it's funny. You get a shot. You get to punch him. Not the face, Dana. But if you did punch him in the face, then that's breaking.
Yeah,
the
never in the
ceasefire.
face, always in the chest, right?
But
Time
this
where
is what he
it
did
won't
to
hurt too bad.
Israelis and the Iranians, and then the Iranians violated it, and then Israel came in really
funny.
hard. And so Trump's trying to knock their heads together, and he's so frustrated because he wants to make this ceasefire stick. And if it sticks, then you're going to have Abraham Accords. He says the Iranians should start trading products. instead
The
of
Middle
missiles.
East would be better off.
And then you get China out of the equation. Russia's already pushed back. The proxies are gone, and you could have a real
100%.
region there that's not about blood. It's about money.
What Trump
And
was
that's what
doing,
this president's goal is
or
always
what
about. Life is all about.
what Trump did now, Biden should have done
Harold,
when he
most
was in
serious
office,
question for you.
especially when.
President Trump.
Sorry, I'm going to pause this. Especially when we got attacked in our military base in Iraq, and we lost 5 service members. This is what Biden should have done back then. So, hey, unfortunately, like you said, President Trump's just trying to fix that now.
Has been officially nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. Do you agree that he's earned it?
I do have a job.
We'll
I have a
see.
full-time job.
I hope he gets it, because if he gets it, that
I wake up
means that,
early and I stay
the
late,
next step in
put
all
out these
this-
videos
I wasn't
for
bothered about
everyone to
calling for a
watch,
ceasefire this
and I like
time,
watching these
because I
videos.
think he has an asymmetrical way of thinking and doing and listening to things.
Like a
And
block,
I
I
think he has not lost
appreciate
sight,
it.
and nor have I. Because the
Scott,
reason I
exactly,
supported
facts, right?
what the president did and was in support of him attacking the mountain several days ago was because I wanted to get the parties back to the table. The president's always
I think
said that he's not one alone.
the president has said
The country
war
is
is bad,
fatigued of that. I think
but
the
we got to
reason
do what
he
we got to
brought
do if it comes to
smartly
it.
does not use the words regime change is because of that. And I think Joey mentioned that in his opening. I'm still a believer that we still have a lot to learn about this assessment. I don't think it's a partisan thing. I think we should all step back and understand whether we delayed them 6 months or 6 years.
We've delayed them.
We did the right thing. by
Absolutely,
going- by going there,
100%.
But we're doing the wrong thing. If we
I
don't
believe
listen
he's
to
a
the
Democrat,
assessment
so I'm glad
and
that
accept it
he's
with a degree of
he's
honesty,
on that
for
same
matter,
page.
a degree of action that has to be taken after.
It had to be done, yeah.
I would say the Democrats and Republicans.
You're
in
absolutely
Congress,
right, Scott.
I believe there's going to be some sort of classified briefing, whether it's today or tomorrow. I hope these tough questions, these follow-up questions are asked. And I hope that the Iranians know that if you want to do this the easy way, you come to the table. If you want to do it the hard way, the
negotiate,
president and his team have shown you
get
what the
things
hard way
done
looks like.
on paper rather through
Hey,
bullets,
Sean
right?
Hannity here. Hey,
Use
click
the
here
pen,
to
not the
subscribe
bullet.
to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.
So I guess there's breaking news that just popped up. Israel, Iran both claiming victory on the ceasefire. Sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but I find it funny that someone's saying that they've won on a ceasefire, right? There's no winners or losers because something's already happened. But let's get into this video.
All right, let's bring in Mike Tobin, who is live in Tel Aviv with the latest on the ground. Mike, good morning.
Good morning. We have both the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian
No
claiming
relations,
victory
no
now in this
relations,
first
ops.
full day in which the ceasefire appears to be holding. Now, you just heard from President Trump saying that the Iranian nuclear program has been set back, has been devastated, has been obliterated, to kind of paraphrase his words. But the contrary reporting that they're referring to, we've got that information through the Reuters news agency, citing U.S. intelligence officials saying that the Iranian nuclear program was set back a matter of months, not years. Still, in light of that, you have the Israeli
So
Prime
I'll
Minister
take
Benjamin
months,
Netanyahu claiming
possibly
victory,
a year,
saying
over
two existential
weeks, right?
threats to the Jewish
Even
state
if that
have
is the
been
case,
removed. The
which I
Iranian
don't think it
nuclear
is, but
program,
we'll see.
and
Like I
he
said,
claims that they have decimated the ballistic missile arsenal that belonged to Iran. Here's the Prime Minister.
Oh, Scott, I agree with you 100%.
Israel,
I mean,
on your behalf, I think.
I saw something earlier where they were saying Israel's trying to run out of defensive missiles and Iran's trying to run out of actual ballistic missiles. So they're running out on both sides, right? I mean, look, Israel, I get it, especially over the last, 3 years now. They've used so much defensive equipment that I'm surprised that they're still going, honestly. But I guess it does help to have an ally like us.
Thank my friend, President Trump, and the United States for their part in the defense of Israel and in removing the Iranian nuclear threat. The participation of the U.S. in the campaign, not only organizationally,
Sure, absolutely.
but also
Brian, you're right.
offensively, is a historic event.
Now, the war in Gaza continues, and Israel suffered a setback there. 7 soldiers have been killed. They were...
All right. Ravi, sure, that's your opinion, but that's not even close. Zionists are worse than the Nazis were. I mean, not even close. There probably was no worse group. Maybe slave traders, you could say, throughout the history of human beings. But to say Zionists were worse than the Nazis is almost laughable.
operating in a Puma armored vehicle, which is pretty much just an old British Challenger tank with the turret removed. A Palestinian managed to attach a bomb to that vehicle and detonate it, killing the soldiers.
That's your
inside.
opinion, but I think
Israeli
many
hostages
or the majority
are
of
still
people would
believed to be held
disagree.
in the Gaza Strip, and 20 of them are believed to be alive. Carly and Todd.
All right, Mike Tobin live for us. Mike, thank you. Let's bring in former Navy submariner, naval defense expert, and senior fellow at the Hudson Institute, Brian Clark. Brian, thank you so much for joining us.
You do realize that most Israelis are of darker complexion, right? Not like my complexion, but they're pretty dark.
This morning. And speaking of the Navy, U.S. Navy subs launched 30 Tomahawk missiles as part of the Iranian strike, Operation Midnight
I'm not even
Hammer.
going to pause it, but...
So what do you think about the president's assessment of the success of that mission that we just heard?
Well, I think these intel reports are often pretty preliminary, right? So the first time you look at it, you're going to make a really rough
well, the
assessment
truth
of what
always
might
does
have
come to
happened.
light,
And
or
I think
most times,
the
right? So.
strike was obviously successful, obviously caused a lot of damage. Obviously, I took away the ability to access those facilities and probably damaged them significantly underground. So I think that's sort of a given. Everybody agrees to that. I think the question is, how long did this delay?
Well,
the
hostages are
program?
always good
And I think
for
a lot of the initial
negotiations down
assessments
the
are
road.
based on the
So
fact that the uranium is still around, and then
it's
maybe
an
got moved
unfortunate
somewhere else.
truth
But there's
of war.
a big difference between having some somewhat enriched uranium in a pile somewhere and having the ability to translate that into a bomb.
Well, one of the big things that will come out of this NATO summit this morning is, of course, the 5% increase in NATO defense spending for all 32 nations, that 5% of their GDP. How significant is that in terms of weapons that money will be spent towards? And how much stronger do you think the NATO alliance will be as a result of this increased spending?
Well, it's huge. I mean, you think about most of these NATO countries have been barely getting to 2%.
Yeah, Brian, like I said,
GDP.
I'm in
So this
agreement
is
with you. So
almost a doubling of the money they spend on their military, and then they're, in addition to that, spending 1.5% of GDP on infrastructure and cybersecurity and some of the other resilience initiatives that are needed to be able to defend against a nearby threat like Russia. So it's a huge increase, and it will cause those militaries to be a lot stronger. I think it'll be particularly impressive to see the level of redundancy that we'll get in Europe. I think some people say redundancy is bad, but in the military sense, it's usually good because you have more capacity then. And I think one of the things this will do is allow the NATO countries to maybe be able to combine their efforts and be able to have more capacity to address the Russian threat instead of having to specialize in one or two military disciplines.
Yeah, and right now I'm thinking back to March 4th when President Trump made those comments before Congress, and he promised to establish a new Office of Shipbuilding within the White House, revitalize the industry and bolster American Navy strength. How are we doing on that front?
I doing pretty well. I was
saying, I think our Navy is the best in the world by far. It doesn't even come close. So, I mean, the fact that we're just adding on to it makes it even better for us. But overall, our Navy, fantastic.
The office's actions to start the gears turning in terms of regulatory changes that start to incentivize companies to move into the shipbuilding industry. We've already seen some investment in U.S. shipyards. So Hanwha Industries, which is a Korean company, has invested and bought the Philly shipyard. That shipyard is now looking at building out commercial ships. There's a huge amount of money going into the U.S. Navy shipbuilding effort through this reconciliation bill. So definitely a lot of movement in shipbuilding, I would say. We're going to see somewhat of a renaissance in U.S. shipbuilding. The only question is, can we sustain
Ryan,
it?
no, I'm right there with you. I hope it doesn't get to that point.
That do shipping
Because
operations.
unfortunately, that might be something that would actually push us into a full-on war.
2 weeks now, with the Iranian military being, I guess the key word of the day is decimated in terms of their military leaders. What is your assessment of Iranian military
Especially if it was
capability
done
right now?
stateside.
It's pretty much completely destroyed, I guess. Right now, there's very little of Iranian military left. Iran's military consists of the military force, the traditional military, and that's largely been destroyed by virtue of Israel's attacks. And then there's also this Iran Revolutionary Guard Corps, which is the special operations part of the military, and it's been damaged to quite an extent. It's unclear exactly how far down it is, but both sides of the military have been pretty much decimated, and there's not much of it left. And the question now is, Iran is going to lash out with its proxies, but doesn't really have the ability to defend its own territory. And so how far does it go knowing that it's pretty much undefended right now?
Very good insight. And the NATO Secretary General congratulated President Trump on the strike. It is certainly something that will be discussed throughout the whole entire day.
And I will say this, me personally, I would have rather liked to see us get a little bit more involved in Iran in terms of airstrikes, right? Not boots on the ground or anything like that. For the simple fact that if we've got the airspace in Iran, then we probably had a little bit more of an ability to like do more damage. But if the ceasefire works, then the right move was done. But like I said, me personally, I don't see that actually like holding. And unfortunately, and I'm paraphrasing, right? George Washington, he said in a quote, "Do not allow your enemies to withdraw and get stronger," right? I'm paraphrasing, but essentially that was it. So, and I feel like that's going to end up being the case, unfortunately. So, but yeah, let's get back into it.
During this NATO summit in the Netherlands. Brian Clark, thank you for joining us.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
All right, I'm going to do one more video because I want to see what President Trump was saying.
All right, let's bring in Mike Tobin, who is live in Tel Aviv.
What he said at NATO. I know that was a couple hours ago, so I do want to hit that real quick, and then I think we're going to end it for now. But I will be back on at 5 p.m. Eastern time, so we'll see what happens throughout the rest of the day, and we'll go from there. But before that, let's hit up NATO. Put up Trump. I know it says live, but every time I clicked it, it said program's trying to. Oh, never mind, it's back.
People are watching, and you would think they'd do the opposite. You would think they'd want to say this was an unbelievable success. And the thing that hurts me is it's really demeaning to the pilots and the people that put that whole thing together, the generals. That was a perfect operation. And
well, this is President Trump speaking at NATO.
From 52,000 feet. There was no moon, there was no light, and those three holes are right together. And also, and nobody talks about this.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you still got to have a good day, right? Don't let this dictate the way your day goes or your life goes.
That was 400 miles away. And every one of those tomahawks hit within a foot of where they were supposed to hit. Took out a lot of buildings that Israel wasn't able to get. We took them out with tomahawks. We don't even talk about that.
Because we are the greatest military in the world. Only the best can do it, right, baby?
And it knocked them for a loop. And you know, if it didn't, they wouldn't have settled. If they had won, if we didn't take it out, they wouldn't have settled. Somebody mentioned that to me last night. If that thing wasn't devastated, they would have never settled. Marco, do you have something to say?
No, first of all this stuff about the intelligence, this is what a leaker is telling you the intelligence says. That's the game these people play. They read it, and then they go out and characterize it the way they want it characterized, and they're leakers. This is the game they play. So that's number one. Number two, here's a fact. The conversion facility, which you can't do a nuclear weapon without a conversion facility. We can't even find where it used to be on the map. You can't even find where it used to be because the whole thing is just black.
Children are definitely more forward and open, so I mean, they probably have more common sense than most human beings. They say it as it is. Adults always have something to hide.
There was Iran, the way it looked the day before the attack, and what their nuclear program looks like now. Two very different things. They are way behind where they were just 7 days ago.
Okay, I do want to put this out, Ravi. That is not true. The U.S. military only takes about 5% of its federal budget, so not even close. If we went to a full military buildup and we were using like 40 or 50% like we were in World War II, the rest of the world should be terrified. We use 5%, and we're still stronger than the rest of the world right now. Imagine us at 40% or 50%, or if we really, really needed to, 60%. So the world hasn't seen what we can do when we really want to get into war. This is just minute.
You took out the nuclear capability of Iran. This was crucial. You did it in a way which is extremely impressive. But the signal sends to the rest of the world that this president, when it comes to it, yes, he's a man of peace, but if necessary, he is willing to use strength.
And that's how it should be, right?
Strength of the American military.
Like Teddy Roosevelt said, speak soft but carry a big stick. Like that's 100% true, right? We want peace, and we will try to restrain from using violence when not needed. But if you're gonna poke the bear, you're gonna get effed up at the end of the day. So we advocate for peace because the U.S. has been at war for most of its history, or a good chunk of its history. We would like to be in a peacetime. So at the end of the day, we will do what's necessary for the American people, military-wise, but that's only when necessary.
So I think that signal to the rest of the world, this is far beyond Iran, is extremely important. So let me also point us to that aspect of what happened.
They went down, Iran went down to the site afterwards. They said it's so devastated, and they settled when they saw what we did to it. And frankly, if we didn't do that, they would have had a lot of ammunition to keep going. They wouldn't have settled.
So I will.
Somebody brought that up, and 2 Iranians went down to see it, and they called.
So logical bananas. I agree with you, right? I get why people would be on this train of thought. 100%. It does seem like it is Iraq again, but the difference is this time is that there's actual evidence of it, right? It's not just us. It's the Nuclear International Institute, different government sources. It isn't just one source. It isn't just us saying that, oh, they've got weapons of mass destruction. And we're not saying that they've got it at this moment, but we're saying they are at the cusp of having it. And that's something that I don't think we'd want, especially when, again, I think it's like one of 3 countries or countries that say that's America: North Korea, Iran, and Gaza. Not say that it's all Gazan people, but that's the case, right? So yeah, just want to point that out there.
Roll back, and they said this place is gone. So it's just fake news by CNN, which has got no ratings. It's a failed network. Anybody here from CNN, by the way? Because you're a really disgraceful network. MSNBC, I think.
And Ravi, you keep saying I'm brainwashed, but the thing is, that's all you're saying. You're not actually saying anything of substance. So, I mean,
he did such a nice job there.
And this is not the right way to dialogue with someone you disagree with. Because then you'll never get someone to be able to see your point of view or change their side.
I said, this is when I had to debate this guy. You think it's easy to debate him? It's not easy.
How long do you think that the Iranian nuclear program has been put back by these strikes? Years or totally obliterated?
Terminados, I appreciate it. Yeah. I mean, hey, look, at the end of the day, you have a strong military and you're better off being able to defend you and your people, your country, your nation, your way of living. So
I think they've had it. I mean, they just went through hell.
Ravi, in this point, I agree with you. I feel like we have no desire to want to be in the Middle East other than economical trade and oil, right? Outside of that, hey, let the Middle East do what they do. That's not for us. Now, at the end of the day, we still are allies with Israel, so if they need our help, we will help them. But I think President Trump is doing something good right now, where, especially with the ceasefire, he's telling them to cut back and let the ceasefire work, and that way there's more peace involved. But yeah. Gina Yates, yeah, I agree with you. Israel did a lot of the legwork, so I'm not even going to deny that. They did a lot of work getting us in, and we just put essentially the final nail in the coffin, right? In terms of destroying their nuclear capabilities.
With that hit ended the war. That hit ended the war. I don't want to use an example of Hiroshima. I don't want to use an example of Nagasaki. But that was essentially the same thing. That ended that war. This ended that with the war. If we didn't take that out, they would have been. They'd be fighting
Omega.
right now.
That is a good question. I hope for Iran's best interest that is the case. But then again, we're technically not at war, so that would have to be the case by proxy, right? Like with their terror proxies. But we'll have to wait and see.
Nobody can get in to see it because it's collapsed. You can't go in to see
it. 100%, yeah.
It has, 10 million tons.
And this is a video that I did yesterday. Iran funding of terrorists has led to over 130 separate attacks on U.S. military facilities, personnel, allies over the last just 3 years alone. So 100% Iran funds it. It's not even a question of that anymore. That's pretty much the standard thought process.
Of rock in it. And the tunnels are totally collapsed.
But they rebuilt.
Well, they've already looked at the tunnels. This was an unbelievable hit by genius pilots and genius people in the military, and they're not being given credit for it because we have scum that's in this group, and not all of you are. You have some great reporters, but you have scum. CNN is scum. MSDNC is scum. The New York Times is scum. They're bad people. They're sick. And
like I said, logic. I'd be surprised if the ceasefire holds, but I think if it does, good, and I think it will stop the attacks. But if it doesn't hold and Iran's just trying to replenish, then unfortunately, then I think it will get worse, and we'll probably have to get involved even more than we'd like to. But I think it's something that we're gonna have to do at the end of the day.
And I was told that they said it was total obliteration. You know, they have guys that go in there after the hit, and they say it was total obliteration. And you know, I don't want to for the pilots,
future world machines. That to some degree, I get where you're saying or where you're coming from. But the thing is, Israel is at least its own country, whereas Iran is funding actual terrorists, where they're not aligned with any nation or any. Yeah, essentially.
Without Trump, you wouldn't have a New York Times.
And then just changing gears to your meeting with Zelensky later today, can you give us any preview of what the two of you might be discussing?
No, well, we'll discuss the obvious. We'll discuss his difficulty. He's got a little difficulty. Zelensky. He's a nice guy. I mean, I'm going to meet him today. I don't know. I assume we're going to be discussing Ukraine.
Yes.
It seems like the most likely.
Any restart?
Well, it's funny. Everyone's in debt to everybody, right? In some form or fashion.
And he actually was very nice. He volunteered help.
It's funny. Germany just finished their debt from like World War II, maybe a decade or so ago. So it's like everyone's in debt. It's just most people, rather than paying it off, find ways to lessen it or minimize it through territories or whatnot.
Progress is being made. I think great progress is being made on Gaza. I think because of this attack that we made, I think we're going to have some.
Yates, Gina Yates, yeah, absolutely. I'm pretty sure that their nuclear capabilities has been pushed back by at least a few years at minimum. That's what I believe, right? But obviously, we're going to have to wait to see all the information. But I think they are pushed back by years.
He just explains it so easily. He's really very knowledgeable. But he did tell me that.
Which is probably something. Which is another reason why they got pushed into the ceasefire.
One follow-up on Iran. Both you and Secretary Rubio and Hexet mentioned the leak. But can you clarify, is the intelligence correct or is the intelligence wrong?
Well, the intelligence.
All right, so 9/11, I don't believe was funded by Saudi money, but I mean, obviously Bin Laden, right? And he was Saudi, so I get that. I don't think it was funded by Saudi directly, but yes, it was technically funded by money that came from Saudi Arabia by proxy of Bin Laden and his family. So it just depends on how you want to take that information.
Would say, isn't that a great thing? I mean, more importantly for the pilots, for the military, you take their guts out. You take their absolute guts out. They had a tremendous attack. It was a complete obliteration. The other team, the other group, Iran, said, let's stop this. And you know what? Israel said it too. Very smart. They fought like hell, and then they said, let's stop. And they're going to build themselves. And I really see it as sticking. I mean, we may do papers on it, Marco. Maybe we're going to do papers. I don't even know if you need them. They're not going to be fighting each other. They've had it. They've had a big fight, like two kids in a schoolyard. You know, they fight like hell. You can't stop them.
I mean, there's been nation states long before the U.S. was here. So I mean, but I see your point. People have more ability to actually have a country rather than singular empires or under one empire.
Thank you, Mr. President.
She used to be very difficult, but now she.
Do you believe that the strike on the Iranian?
Yeah, it was all Israel's big plan for 9/11.
I think that it helped a little bit. It showed a lot of power. Yeah, I think it helped. But
Gina, but like I said, I agree with you. Any country that says death to America and or death to Israel, we can't allow to have nuclear power.
Thank you.
So those were the very latest remarks from President Donald Trump alongside the NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte earlier this morning around 4:30 this morning here on the East Coast, happening before we came on the air. Many of you were asleep, so we wanted to.
All right, so I'm gonna go through some comments real quick. Like I said earlier, Fahd, definitely understand your point of view. There's definitely more nations than there were before. That may be due to U.S. influence overseas and having us wanting to push more freedoms for individuals. Because before it used to be empires, right? Or major empires. You had the Hungarian Empire where it diminished and became smaller states or smaller nations. Same thing with Russia. So I get your point. I think those are valid points. I think people, do misunderstand the United States. It's unfortunate, but at the end of the day, we're going to continue to thrive and prosper, and hopefully people will take part of it. Yeah, just because a country has universal healthcare doesn't mean that their country is good. I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean. No, Gina, I wasn't saying that. I was saying someone else said that, and I was making a joke about it. I'm not saying Israel had anything to do with 9/11. So that wasn't me. Look up in the comments earlier. That's all I'll say. Yeah. So yeah, Iran was they had ability to make they were making uranium to build nuclear weapons. So yeah. Yeah, how was it? Well, we didn't want to destabilize the nuclear weapons. We wanted to eradicate it from Iran. That we don't want them to have any nuclear capabilities. They did. So Israel, Iran, they've been striking back and forth. So. Yeah, they've been doing that for like the last week or so, or I guess 12 days. If only, right? Trump 2028. That would be nice, but unfortunately, it's not a lot until Congress repels that, which I don't ever see that happening, at least not in my lifetime. Now, hey, who knows? I could be wrong, right? But I don't see it happening. As far as we know, Israel does not have nuclear weapons. Now, they might have a secret program that even we don't know about, but at the moment, Israel does not have nuclear weapons. But hey, guys, I gotta call it a day. I got work I gotta head out to here in a little bit. Appreciate you guys watching so early in the morning. Really means a lot. Thanks for commenting. I love the dialogue that we can have. There's going to be plenty more of these different types of videos. Like I said, I will be back later today, 5 p.m. Eastern time, and we're going to see what happens throughout the day. So hope you guys can join. Thanks for joining, and you guys have a good day. Stay blessed, and see you guys later on today. Cheers.